Why do kind people always end up losing?
Why do the cold and manipulative dominate the game while the good suffer in the shadows? In this video, you will discover the 4 secret lessons of Machiavelli teachings that will transform your kindness into the most powerful weapon to win in 2025. Prepare to see kindness like never before. Neither weakness nor naivety, but pure strategy. If topics like psychology, philosophy, and the darkness of the human soul interest you, subscribe now. At the core of human nature lies a disturbing paradox. While kindness is celebrated as the highest virtue, those who carry it sincerely often find themselves crushed by the harshness of the world. Why do the good who trust, who act with generosity and empathy, seem always at the mercy of the cold interests and calculating strategies of manipulators? This contradiction is one of the greatest enigmas of human existence, and to find its roots we need to go back in time, to the beginning of the 16th century, when Niccolò Machiavelli challenged all conventional ideas about morality, power, and survival. Machiavelli broke with the romantic view that unites kindness and success. He observed a brutal reality. The world is an arena where interests clash, where naivety is often punished, and where kindness, when disarmed, becomes vulnerability. In his work, The Prince, he exposes that to survive in competitive environments, it is not enough to have good intentions. One must understand human nature in its essence, which is much more complex than simple dualities between good and evil. People are driven by fear, desire, selfishness, and the need for self-preservation, factors that shape behaviors often cruel and fickle. This deep understanding of human nature reveals why kind people are often the most exploited. By trusting blindly, they expose themselves to betrayals and abuses because they do not expect the worst. They do not anticipate the dark face that exists in many who surround them. Kindness without defense becomes an invitation to manipulation, so others take advantage of generosity and the good faith of others. This is the cruel paradox. While society values empathy and compassion, the real dynamics of power reward cunning, caution, and often calculated coldness. The paradox of kindness is also a shock to the psyche of those who seek to live ethically in an unpredictable world. When faced with constant injustices and the prevalence of personal interests over the collective, the good heart may feel betrayed, disillusioned, and powerless. The pain of realizing that kindness does not guarantee protection, that being right can mean losing fundamental battles, is a deep wound that can lead to frustration and even bitterness. However, it is precisely at this moment that the need arises to rethink kindness, not as naive weakness, but as a force that demands strategic intelligence to be true and effective. A classic example of this struggle between kindness and power appears in literature and real life. Characters like Jean Valjean in Les Miserables face the dilemma between maintaining their moral values and adapting to the cruel demands of the world. Valjean is a man of genuine kindness, but he learns throughout his journey that protecting the good he represents requires being cunning, resilient, and sometimes pragmatic. This duality reflects a lesson that Machiavelli anticipated. Kindness and power are not opposites, but must combine for the former to survive the test of reality. Modern psychology reinforces this Machiavellian view of kindness. Research indicates that limitless empathy can be a weakness. People excessively confident in the good intentions of others tend to ignore clear signs of manipulation, becoming easy prey in the social game. Studies show that recognizing hidden intentions is a vital skill for emotional and social survival. In this sense, true kindness is neither passive nor blind. It requires vigilance, discernment, and even the ability to defend oneself without losing essence. Nietzsche, another thinker who dialogues directly with Machiavelli, adds an essential layer to this reflection. The kindness that does not know how to impose itself is weakness disguised as virtue. For him, kindness without strength that does not assert itself firmly ends up destroyed. This view complements the Machiavellian idea that kindness needs to be allied with strength and intelligence. Without this, it becomes Vulnerability is often fatal in highly competitive and conflictive environments. Therefore, the paradox of kindness that makes the good suffer is not in kindness itself, but in how it is exercised in the face of human complexity and power dynamics. To not succumb, kindness must cease to be a mere sentimental disposition and become a survival strategy, a force that unites heart and mind, ethics and pragmatism, compassion and discernment. Only then can kindness cease to be a burden and become the greatest weapon of those who truly want to win and transform the world around them. If the first act revealed the cruel paradox of kindness in the real world, this act is the key to overcoming it. Machiavelli did not come just to point out difficulties. He offered practical lessons that have withstood the test of time and remain extremely relevant in 2025. These are 4 essential teachings that every good person needs to learn to transform their kindness into an invincible force. For Machiavelli, understanding human nature is the foundation of every strategy aimed not only at surviving, but thriving in competitive and unpredictable environments. He did not see people through the simplistic lens of good and evil, but as complex beings. Driven by desires, fears, interests, and circumstances, this view forces us to abandon the romantic illusion that the world is a fair place where pure kindness will always prevail. In truth, many human behaviors are guided by selfishness, instinct of self-preservation, and the relentless pursuit of advantage. Machiavelli states that men are ungrateful, fickle deceivers, and cowardly before danger, greedy for gain. Although it sounds pessimistic, this diagnosis is a realistic description of the tendencies that shape social and political interactions. This perception is not an invitation to cynicism, but a call for prudence. Knowing that kindness by itself is not a barrier against betrayal or manipulation is fundamental for anyone who wishes to act ethically without being naively vulnerable. This deep understanding of human nature forces us to look beyond words and apparent intentions and interpret subtle signs of self-interest and hidden motives. Modern psychology confirms that the ability to read others' intentions is crucial for emotional survival. Theory of mind, for example, shows that knowing what others think and feel, even when not openly expressed, allows anticipating moves and protecting oneself against emotional and social abuse. Furthermore, studies reveal that excessive empathy can be a trap. People who blindly trust the goodwill of others often ignore small signs of manipulation and disloyalty. Psychologist Jennifer Freed identified that traumas and past experiences shape the capacity to identify betrayals. Thus, strategic kindness includes developing a critical and vigilant gaze that preserves the essence of generosity, but protects it against those seeking to exploit it. Nietzsche, in dialogue with Machiavelli, reinforces that kindness without strength is weakness disguised as virtue. For him, true virtue demands power that does not oppress, but imposes itself with intelligence and firmness. This means that being good cannot be a passive state. It must be an active attitude, where ethics is accompanied by discernment and capacity for action. This combination prevents kindness from being mistaken for weakness or submission. In practice, understanding human nature implies establishing clear boundaries. It means recognizing when helping is prudent and when it is necessary to step back to preserve one's own energy and integrity. In professional environments, for example, indiscriminate help can lead to exhaustion and exploitation by colleagues who do not reciprocate. Strategic kindness, therefore, guides investing time and resources in those who demonstrate reciprocity and respect. This lesson also challenges us to accept that the world does not work according to our idealistic expectations, but according to its own logic, where survival and power intertwine. Those who ignore this reality end up paying a high price: frustration, disappointment, and often defeat. On the other hand, those who master this understanding can act with more freedom and security, knowing when to open their hearts and when to protect themselves. Finally, this deep understanding of human nature is not an invitation to abandon kindness, but to reinvent it. Machiavellian kindness is one that knows itself strong, conscious, and strategic, capable of thriving without giving up essential values, but that also recognizes that in the game of life, naivety is the greatest enemy of good. Only then can the good cease to be fragile and become a powerful force capable of transforming realities. In the ruthless universe of human relationships and power, rigidity is an invitation to failure. Machiavelli was emphatic in saying that he who does not know how to adapt his conduct to the nature of the times will be destroyed. This phrase sums up an unrelenting truth. The world is in constant transformation, and survival depends on the ability to bend, adjust, and reinvent oneself in the face of circumstances for the good who carry kindness as a central value. This need for adaptation may seem like a challenge or even a threat to the integrity of their principles, but the art of adaptation does not mean renouncing essential values, but knowing how to preserve them amidst chaos. Adaptation is a form of intelligence that recognizes that the social and professional environment is not fixed. Politics, culture, personal relationships, and the job market are always in motion. What worked yesterday may be ineffective today. Remaining inflexible in the face of these changes is to be swallowed by emotional and strategic obsolescence. Therefore, true strength lies not in standing still, but in learning to navigate the changing currents of time, adjusting your posture, communication, and actions as the moment demands. In literature, this lesson appears strongly in characters like Ulysses in Homer's Odyssey, who faces countless challenges, monsters, and traps, not only with brute strength, but above all with cunning and the ability to adapt. He molds himself to each situation, not losing the essence of who he is, but being flexible enough to overcome obstacles that rigidity would not allow. This classic example teaches us that wisdom lies not in moral rigidity, but in strategic flexibility, the malleability that maintains integrity even in the most adverse situations. This capacity for adaptation is also essential in modern times, as became evident during recent global crises. For example, the pandemic of 2020. Millions had to reinvent their routines, ways of working, relating, and even thinking. Those who managed to adjust their strategies and behaviors prospered, while those who remained stuck in old formulas were left on the sidelines. The art of adaptation is therefore a matter of contemporary survival, not just an abstract idea for the good. This lesson implies a delicate balance. One must be flexible without losing the essence of kindness. It is not about giving up values, but understanding that the way to express them can vary. Sometimes acting firmly, other times retreating, sometimes being patient, other times being incisive. This fluidity is what ensures that kindness does not become weakness, but rather a dynamic and effective tool for personal and social transformation. Machiavelli also warns that adaptation is not synonymous with manipulation or falsehood, but with wisdom, knowing when and how to act, adjusting one's actions to the context and to people while respecting one's own limits is the basis of effective leadership. Rigidity, on the other hand, creates enmities, blocks opportunities, and leads to isolation. The art of adaptation is therefore a strategy of harmony that does not sacrifice inner truth, but seeks the best ways to express it and make it prevail. From a psychological point of view, this ability requires self-knowledge and self-control. The individual who masters the art of adaptation recognizes their emotions, beliefs, and limitations. While perceiving external dynamics, this awareness allows for more conscious and less reactive choices, avoiding the emotional wear that constant resistance to the new usually causes. Adaptability, in this sense, is synonymous with emotional resilience, one of the most valued traits in contemporary psychology. Finally, the art of adaptation puts the good in the position of protagonist, not victim of circumstances. It offers the power to shape one's own destiny within the flow of life, to build bridges instead of walls, to learn and grow even in the face of adversity. By embracing adaptation as a strategic principle, Kindness ceases to be passive and becomes active, dynamic, and resilient. The true mark of those who know that strength lies not in rigidity, but in the ability to reinvent oneself without losing essence. Machiavelli challenges us to abandon the naive belief that being loved is the most powerful form of leadership and influence. For him, love is a volatile emotion, subject to changes in mood, interests, and circumstances, an unstable ground for those who wish to remain firm in control of their life and the relationships that matter. Respect, on the other hand, is a more solid foundation built on the perception of competence, firmness, and integrity, and it creates psychological barriers against betrayal and disrespect. This lesson is an invitation to rethink the priority we give to affection and understand that, in practice, inspiring respect can ensure more stability and security. This distinction between love and respect is deep and revealing. While love can blind, causing decisions to be made out of affection rather than reason, respect demands recognition based on facts, behaviors, and results. People who seek to be loved at all costs risk becoming permissive, hesitant, and vulnerable to abuse. On the other hand, those who cultivate respect establish clear boundaries, convey authority, and are more capable of making difficult, even unpopular decisions. In the professional environment, this difference is particularly visible. A leader who tries to please everyone seeking to be liked may fail to impose discipline and achieve goals. Meanwhile, a respected leader, even if not loved by all, manages to maintain order, lead teams, and conduct projects effectively. Respect creates a psychological field where people know their limits, promoting safety and predictability, essential elements for any organization or social group. This lesson also dialogues with the moral philosophy of Immanuel Kant, who saw respect as the foundation of just and balanced human interactions. For Kant, respecting oneself and others is a moral duty that sustains social coexistence. Machiavelli goes further and positions respect not only as an ethical value, but as a strategic tool of power, necessary for preserving authority and influence in any sphere of life. From a neuroscientific perspective, recent research confirms that inspiring respect activates brain areas linked to trust and security, while the desperate search for love can stimulate reward and frustration circuits, leading to impulsive and harmful behaviors. This explains why people who depend on others' affection to feel valued are more emotionally vulnerable and have difficulties maintaining stable relationships. In personal relationships, respect creates an environment where dialogue is possible, where differences are accepted and boundaries respected. It strengthens mutual trust and allows people to express their opinions without fear of rejection or devaluation. Inspiring respect, therefore, does not mean being cold or distant, but acting with integrity, authenticity, and firmness, qualities that sustain healthy and lasting relationships. This lesson also dismantles the idea that kindness is associated with always being gentle or permissive. In truth, strategic kindness recognizes that imposing limits is an act of care both for oneself and others. Establishing clear boundaries is fundamental so that kindness is not confused with weakness, nor used as an excuse for submission or exploitation. Finally, inspiring respect above love is an invitation to emotional and ethical maturity that strengthens personal power and relationships. It is understanding that respect is the foundation for the longevity of human connections and for building a solid legacy. By prioritizing respect, the good protects himself from emotional volatility and becomes an agent of transformation capable of exercising leadership, influence, and generosity with intelligence and firmness. Throughout this video, we have delved into the core of Machiavelli's thought to extract lessons that do not cancel kindness, but give it new meaning. The world does not necessarily reward the just. It rewards the prepared. And as we have seen, true preparation begins when we stop expecting morality to be enough and start seeing reality with more attentive, clearer, and above all, more strategic eyes. Machiavelli does not destroy virtue. He awakens it from its naive sleep. Kindness only becomes real strength when tempered by intelligence, discipline, and firmness. It is not about abandoning empathy, compassion, or moral values that make us human, but positioning them on a battlefield where not everyone plays fair. It is understanding that in a world where appearances matter, where interests command, and where emotions fluctuate like the wind, being good is not enough. You need to be good and strong. The 4 lessons of Machiavelli. Understanding human nature, mastering the power of appearance, adapting to the flow of circumstances, and inspiring respect instead of seeking love are not recipes for coldness, but maps for survival. They teach the good to stop being a victim of the world and become its architect. And paradoxically, it is only when the good learn to fight that they truly manage to protect what is noblest within themselves. Therefore, the choice is not between being pure or being evil, between being ethical or being cruel. The choice is between being conscious or remaining blind. Naivety is the ruin of the virtuous. Strategic lucidity, on the other hand, is what transforms idealism into concrete achievement. True kindness is knowing when to forgive and when to walk away, when to help and when to say enough. But it is this kindness that survives. It is this kindness that transforms. If this content provoked you, woke you up, or gave you a new perspective, consider subscribing to the channel. Here we do not offer comfort, we offer vision. And if you want to continue this journey, click on the next video where we will reveal a philosophical teaching that may forever change the way you see life. You will have to take the risk of the click, so what will you choose? See you in the dark. Until then.